Well, Georgia's going to have to cover another big line this week. I don't know. Dean Legge from Dog Post encouraging you to go sign up for our newsletter. The Dogs are listed right now to open as an 18-point favorite over the Arkansas Razorbacks, the number 8 in the country Arkansas Razorbacks. So we'll just see how this goes. Does that seem too high, too low? I've got some data here for you, for all you degenerate gamblers and Larry Munson freak out people, which there are so many of them in Georgia's population. So this game gives you, when you're a significant favorite like that, it doesn't mean you're gonna win no matter what. That's not how this works. I mean, the last time Georgia lost a game in Sanford, it was a noon game, and they were a huge favorite. Usually, you are a huge favorite when you're playing games noon at home in the SEC. So that was a South Carolina game in 2019. This is obviously different than that. In that time, Georgia's had game day come. For the Auburn game, I think. They had game day against Notre Dame earlier in that season. So having a big game in Athens is really not anything new. Now, it's a little bit different, though, lately. Okay, so when you look back at what's happened here over time, Georgia's played a lot of games against top 10 teams. They just have not been in Athens. So the Gators, some of this is going off memory. The Gators in 18, 19, and 20, those were all top 10 teams. Georgia wins two of those three, but it's not in Jacksonville. So you're playing consistently the best team you play every year, you're never playing them at home. Auburn, 2016, top 10 Auburn, Georgia beats them. Last year, top 10 Auburn, Georgia beats them. Notre Dame, 2019, Georgia beats them. Now, the Auburn games were different. In 16, Georgia was a 10-point dog and won that game. Okay, 13-7, I think it was. The Mo Smith game, you remember that? It was in November. Not that cold, but cold enough. And then in 2020, obviously Stetson Bennett kind of tosses it all over the yard against Auburn. They beat a top 10 Auburn. The Notre Dame game is the most similar, just generally speaking, and on a lot of different levels in the last, maybe ever. And here's why. That game, Georgia was a 16-point favorite against Notre Dame. 16. They won the game, but they had to stop Notre Dame on the last drive of the game. Do you remember that game at all? Like, Georgia gave them a touchdown. Notre Dame had a starting field position inside the 10 for Georgia and scored a touchdown on 4th down, no less. Jake Camarda has probably his worst punt of his career, which, he's got a couple I remember specifically. That one and the punt against Texas. But that one gave Notre Dame a real shot at winning that game because they were only down 6. So in that game, that was also a College Game Day selection from ESPN. The game was on CBS, but it was at night. So this game, with Arkansas being an 18-point dog, and we're enough into the day now where that's where it's going to start. We don't know where it's going to finish. Could this be about Arkansas's quarterback? Quarterback makes a difference. If the quarterback's banged up a little bit, like it looks like Arkansas's quarterback is, that'll make like a 4-point difference. It ain't making an 18-point difference. So, 18 is a lot. And it gives you north of 80% chance to win the game. And that's a lot. Alabama is somewhere in that ballpark against the Rebels. So, it's not like it's nothing, and that means you should win the game. And for the record, I think Georgia should win this game. They are the better team. They're playing at home. Okay, so Alabama's like a 15, 16-point favorite. That line has gone down from its opening at 17.5. Georgia and the Hogs has not gone down. It's what it is. The other thing I think that's interesting, I'll probably talk about this a little bit more later in the week. Georgia lately has played a lot of games against top 10 teams. This is their second in 5 games this year. And they're going to play another one probably against the Gators in Jacksonville. So when you're going through a season and you're playing top 10 teams 3 times in your first 9 games, That's a tough schedule, okay? That's difficult. Please don't give me this, well, Clemson sucks, and, well, they didn't suck that night. That's what it was. Ohio State got beat by Oregon. You don't think they're good still? So it's who you play in that moment. It's who you play at that time. I hate that argument because it's all relative, Don't give me this who was good at the end of the season. Who was good when you played them? And that's what it was for Georgia. They, that moment against Clemson, there are a lot of people, and I have a long history with the state of South Carolina, having gone to college there. So I know a lot of Clemson people. I know a lot of Carolina people. And there's plenty of questioning right now if this is over for Clemson. And did Georgia break them? That's like a Georgia narrative. I don't know if that's based in reality. I think Dabo broke them. I mean, the recruiting has been not what you want it to be, and that's another story for another day. But, Clemson doesn't play a lot of top 10 games because they're playing in the playoff, and that's it. For Georgia, they're dealing with this all the time, and it's been more and more lately. Last year, they played top 10 against Auburn at the start of the season. Tennessee was a top 15 team when they came to Athens. Obviously, the Alabama game, the Florida game, and then the Cincinnati game. You play four of your games were top 10 games out of 10. That's 40% of your season. So it's becoming normal, and it's becoming normal because Georgia is top 10. Then that means whenever they play someone else, that means it's a top 10 matchup, obviously. But you don't have to go to the DeKalb County schools to know that, like some of us. But it is a bit remarkable that they continue to play this many top 10 games. It's not this many in a row, but it's a lot. And it's a product of playing in really good bowls, but it's also a product of scheduling. The Notre Dame game, the Clemson game, stuff like that. And, of course, you're playing in the league, which is tough. The Baylor game, Notre Dame, Clemson. Georgia's had a lot of these confrontations. And, for me, and you never know what's going to happen until it happens on the field. But having watched the Hogs a fair amount, and I'm going to go back and watch them more, having watched the Hogs a fair amount, they're physical. They are determined, certainly. I was bothered by the Rice game, but that's a while ago now. That game doesn't matter as much as it did at the time. So when you watch as much college football as I do, embarrassingly, you can see it. The way Arkansas beat Texas, they're going to have a hard time doing that to Georgia. The way they beat A&M, they're going to have a hard time doing that to Georgia. You're going to have to throw the ball some. And because running is going to be tough. So, could you rip off a run like Cincinnati did? Yeah. I mean, any one play can be a knockout punch, for lack of a better term, or be a knockdown punch. The question is, just knocking someone down doesn't mean you knocked them out. Arkansas is a power team. Sam's teams are going to be power teams. That's why Kirby got him to be the offensive line coach at Georgia. That's what he's going to do at Arkansas. He's instilled culture there. They fought Georgia a season ago. It's not surprising that they're continuing their move forward. We can acknowledge that and also say this is going to be a tough game for Arkansas to win. Now, y'all can go full Larry Munson. That's fine. I get it. But you got to say what it is. And, I think it's not an unreal matchup for Arkansas. You got to want to throw the ball a little better than they do. With that said, they are a gritty bunch. They're going to be tough to move off the ball. Their interior guys, that was not a lot of fun a season ago trying to run the ball against them. And one reason why that game was so competitive going into the third quarter was because Georgia couldn't run effectively, had too many turnovers and bad moments. So the quarterback play was not good, obviously, with Dwan. So When Stetson came in, things settled down. They still had to fight a little bit. I think the line, I mean, we have people on the website. You should go sign up. You can get $1. You can get a month for $1. Why not now? This is the time. Why not? You need to take advantage of it. $1 for a month of Dog Post. You get way more insight on our message board than what I can deliver to you here. But one of those things is we have a degenerate gambler who pays attention to a lot of the future lines. He felt like this would be a 17-point line. Here it is at 18. And he felt like that before they played, A&M the way they did. But A&M's not looked great this season so far. So I saw an Arkansas team yesterday that grabbed A&M, started choking them, had a hard time when the quarterback went out, which makes sense, and then they closed the game out. I thought they were very narrowly they got pretty close to letting A&M back into that game. Didn't happen, but it came very close to letting A&M back in that game. Arkansas' season is not on the line. I don't necessarily think Georgia's is either, but it's an important moment for Georgia. Your best win is gone. You're going to have to prove it against the Hogs. It's going to be a physical fight down on the field. We're going to see game day, all this stuff everybody's talking about all the time. Doesn't matter. You're going to have to concentrate on what you're supposed to do and do what you got to do. You need to go over to dogpost.com. We'll see you on the website.